You might have noticed that over the past few years, Kazakhstan has been producing some of the strongest arm wrestlers in the world. Now this itself is by no means exclusive to Kazakhstan. There are lots of other countries also producing elite athletes, but from what I can see, no other country yet seems to have the same systems in place that Kazakhstan does. I'm talking about Shardara Arm Sport, the facility built in the town of Shardara just next to Uzbekistan. Kazakhstan is not a particularly rich or prosperous country and has vast areas of wide open landscape and poverty. But like most countries in similar conditions, they have some of the most enduring and resilient people in the world, exactly the type of people who become the highest level of athletes. And in that hardy region sits the Shardara School of Arm Wrestling. The facility itself is part of a greater system of sports clubs where people practice other sports like weightlifting, kettlebell, track and field, powerlifting and all kinds of other subjects. But these are not just simple clubs where people go when they can to work out and practice. These are dedicated schools of sport where children go to study the sport just like you would study maths or English, which is a very Eastern European / ex-Soviet style of system. And this concept of training full-time and early is the foundation for producing some of the best athletes in all sports. The age of arm wrestling where you could be the best regardless of what age you begin is slowly drifting away. The lifespan of arm wrestlers is indeed longer than most sports, quite probably down to the particular demands of the sport and the way the sport has shifted in style over recent years. But regardless of the demands or style, the athlete who has trained correctly for longer will have the clear advantage over all but the most genetically elite freaks. The school was founded by Armwrestling Ongarbaev, a honoured coach of the Republic of Kazakhstan and a Master of Sports of international class, which is one of the highest ranks of awards given by the Soviet-influenced system of rewarding athletes and contributors to success in sports. Arman himself learned to arm wrestle while studying in university, being spotted by Vladimir Drexler, the first person to start promoting arm wrestling in Kazakhstan in the 1980s. Together they practiced, discovered technique and planned out a structure to success in the sport. First, Arman became the champion arm wrestler in the university, then winning city competitions and returning to Shardara after graduating. Arman worked to build the sport in the undeveloped town where he became an honored coach for the Republic of Kazakhstan. Over time, his small club developed into one of the most dominant teams internationally, eventually producing 48 world champions. And now the club is fully outfitted, funded, and with the doors held open for school children and all local youth with an interest in sport. And this is where the magic happens. The problem with most sports, if the goal is to perform them at a high level, is that an awful lot of time needs to be given learning the minute technicalities and movements. You can of course get reasonably far just picking things up as you go, but the problem lies in trying to strengthen and improve yourself alongside the learning. It's very difficult to try and do all of the essential parts at the same time. But if you have a much longer time frame to work with, like starting from a very young age, you can more precisely separate each of the fundamental aspects and give them the time that they deserve. A child can spend their first 5 to 10 years or so working almost purely on learning skills and techniques, and then by the time they hit puberty, which is essentially a natural and legal way to take steroids for males, they can put the learning on the back seat. 90% of the motor patterns and technicalities are already deeply ingrained into the mind by now. From here on, the focus can be almost purely put onto getting stronger, faster and more powerful. And these, in comparison to learning the sport, are relatively simple. It's just a case of showing up consistently. Whereas someone who started later will have to juggle all of those prerequisites unless they want to peak 20 plus years later, and even then, they start with the handicap of deterioration that age brings. This school mimics the setup that most of the most dominant countries in their respective sports have built. Go to China and you will see entire compounds dedicated to working children into elite athletes in many sports. In America you have something similar for a few sports, but as far as I know, the level of state involvement does not begin until high school, college or university. Sports becomes an opportunity for countries to show themselves on the international stage. Often it is countries who do not have many other ways to do so who go the most heavily into sports. And this state-sponsored system of schooling is the foundation for almost all sports in the Olympics. So I think if you wanted to see arm wrestling placed there, creating a thorough conveyor belt for children to become elite athletes like this would be the best way to produce the raw material to put onto Olympic podiums. And unsurprisingly, Ongarbaev has been training there since the age of 6 and is regarded to be at such a high level that he is pitted against John Brzenk, whose accolades hardly need mentioning. Ongarbaev is not a massive giant. He is a lean, weight-class efficient athlete who lives and breathes the sport, and has done so since childhood, just like John Brzenk. And I think from this point on, we will start to see more and more of these athletes from this school trickle onto the international stage, eventually dominating the entire game until other countries realize what's happening. But if those countries have no such school systems in place yet, it will take them another 15 to 20 years at the minimum to achieve the spread of athletes that Kazakhstan may already have.